My guest today, Dr. Brian Stensler, has been helping parents raise healthy children since 1998 when he received his Doctor of Chiropractic degree with honors in clinical excellence and a master's in sports health science. He is a man after my own heart. That was in 1999, both from Life University. He's a certified Ultimate Life tool facilitator and corporate consultant, and uses that tool, along with, of course, his formal education and 23 years of clinical experience, to help families create more health, happiness, and stronger relationships. Dr. Stensler has served his profession in numerous roles during president of the California Chiropractic Association from 2014 to 16. Aside from participating on the wellness team for the USGA, again, after my own heart, can you tell this is just pure selfishness to have him here, where he takes care of the professional golfers, caddies, and volunteers at the U.S. Open Championship tournaments each year. He works with hundreds of families in his 3 Dream Wellness Centers that are filled with newborns, toddlers, teenagers, and their parents and grandparents too. Early in his career, Dr. Stensler was an adjunct neurology instructor for the New York College for Health Professions in Long Island, New York. Dr. Stensler uses his vast knowledge of the nervous system in everything he does, whether it be adjusting patients, providing lifestyle advice, or speaking to audiences.
And thank you so much for having me. Whenever I hear that bio, I'm like, wow, I got to hear from this guy.
Right. And I'm like, I want to know what it's like behind the scenes at the U.S. Open. I mean, whatever about this book, I don't know. But all right. So let's start at your beginning, because that's such a comprehensive background that you've got. What I am going to intuit about this, tell me if I'm wrong or right, is that you have actually successfully woven some passions in your life with your skill and your education. But why are you doing what you're doing? I mean, why not a plumber, a lawyer, a
it's
teacher?
It's really interesting, because I think about all these different things every now and then. Having done this for 23 years, I'm like, what if I were a lawyer? I mean, I've got the gift to gab, I guess. People say, wow, you can argue like none other. You should have been an attorney. That's my wife, right?
That's your wife.
I don't compete with her ever. I do have a lot of passions, and I originally wanted to be a movie producer growing up as a kid. I wanted to move out. I grew up in New York and Long Island, and I just always wanted to be a movie producer. That was the thing, is film. And so thought I was going to go to college and do that, and realized early on that I was really passionate about the body and health and fitness. I was paying my way through college as a personal trainer. Even in high school, I always took care of my body, treated it like a temple. I was one of the few people that would eat salads, for a meal before salads were actually on the menu as a meal. It used to be an appetizer, and I'd be like, well, I want salad for lunch or for dinner. And they're like, well, we don't have that on the menu for such a thing. I'm like, well, give me 3 side salads then, and I'll load it with some chicken or something. Yeah. And now salads are on menus, but I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago that this was my thing. So I was always into health and fitness. So I knew my passion was there. And then, I thought I was going to be a physical therapist originally, once I figured I was going to be in healthcare. But then I was introduced to chiropractic through, this is an interesting story I'll share, because this really drives my passion for why I chose to be the type of provider that I chose to be. My mom was dating, I was in my, finishing my first year of college. My mom was dating this guy named Nat, who was a retired police officer from New York, the real NYPD blue kind of guy. And he asked me, he's like, did you ever think about being a chiropractor? Because I was in school for pre-physical therapy. And I said, chiropractic? I don't know anything about chiropractic. Don't they just like crack people's backs? Like, what do they actually do? I can't even pronounce the word when I read it. And he said, honestly, Brian, I don't really know. He said, but my son Steve just started chiropractic school at Life in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've never seen him so happy and passionate about something and focused and determined that whatever it is he's learning, he's really excited about. So maybe you should talk to him. So I said, sure, I'll talk to Steve. So I had a few conversations with Steve and really just fell in love with what Steve told me about chiropractic. It's about, not using drugs and surgery to promote health and wellness. And, I never did drugs pushed or prescribed, barely drank alcohol, never smoked or anything like that. So that just made sense that why would I rely on pharmaceuticals or something to make me feel better if things aren't working. So I was totally sold on the philosophy of the body being a self-healing, self-regulating organism. And I was pretty much sold just by the few conversations I had with Stephen. And then I was going to meet Steve for the first time at our parents' wedding. So we were very excited. We were going to become stepbrothers. And he was taking that whole week, the week of the wedding, he was going to take it off from school. And I was going to take it off from school. And he was going to show me around different chiropractic offices. Well, a day and a half before the wedding, Steve's father, Nat, dies of an aneurysm. That was his first sign of heart disease. God. He woke up that morning thinking he was healthy. He had no idea that was going to be the last morning he would wake up. And interestingly, when I meet Steve at his dad's funeral instead of his dad's wedding, I give him a hug and he asks me, he's like, so I'll pick you up at 10 o'clock on Monday? I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I know he's grieving his dad's death, but this was so important to him because he was so passionate about, the profession and helping humanity through it that, yeah, he would go through his grief over the weekend and back to, educating me and teaching me about the chiropractic profession. And that week I became a chiropractor without a doubt. And, he and I became roommates in chiropractic college when I finished school, and we're still best of friends and brothers by choice rather than by chance, if you will. But it's fueled a different passion also, not only being a chiropractor, but helping people understand where health truly comes from. See, we know that so many people think that, if you don't have any symptoms, you must be healthy. But, people like you and I know the difference of that. And I hope your listeners, and I think they do, knowing that they're flipping 50, they know the difference.
Mic drop. I mean, that was the quote of the day. I think you're probably going to drop some more, but that was really golden, and I think so very important. Listeners, that sink
healthy
in.
People don't drop dead of aneurysms. They don't end up with diabetes. They don't just get diagnosed with cancer. Asymptomatic people do, and it doesn't mean that everything in your life could be avoided through healthy living, but it certainly puts the odds in your favor. And so, when we look at what health is. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So in order for you to develop some type of dis-ease, you have to have something going on first on the cellular level. And, with the absence of like a trauma or genetic thing, right? These things just don't happen overnight. So what I've been, passionate by, fueling my passion is just educating people on a lifestyle of living by choice versus by chance. So this way people would stop blaming their woes in life on bad luck, bad germs, and bad genes, when in many cases are bad choices. Not all, but many. And so that's what I love about the Flipping 50, that whole process of what you're doing is showing people, at any age, there's grace. And we can make changes because where you are at 50 is a result of everything you've done up to 50. But where you're going to be at 60 is going to be a result of everything you do from 50 plus day one. And we get the opportunity to change our life every single moment of every day.
I'm so glad you said that. And I'm going to slip this in here. So very recently, I asked and polled our community and said, listen, I'm kind of teasing this idea of a draft of the Ultimate Bible for beginning strength trainers in menopause. What are your questions? And somebody said, I hear this all the time from my audience. It was a coach, and she said, am I too old? Is it too late? So I went immediately and I pulled some studies that are actually quite old in the 90s and early 2000s. People between the ages 85 and 97 were studied quite often. First-time strength trainers, and what happens to their lean muscle mass. Are they going to have a lot of hypertrophy and look like they can flex their muscles on stage in a bodybuilding contest? No. But are they going to get stronger and maybe be able to use those legs and push out of a chair?
100%. I'm so glad that you're getting that message out there. I mean, look, the truth of the matter is, if you're 80 years old and you're in whatever shape you're in 5 years from now, assuming you live those next 5 years, how old are you going to be? You're going to be 85, right? So do you want to be 85 in the same shape that you're in now or worse? Or do you want to maybe be 85 in better shape than you're in right now? I mean, you're either you're gonna be there or not. So why not do the right thing starting now? That's kind of how I see it.
So well said. Yeah, and putting it in words like that, I think lets a listener say, "Oh gosh, that's exactly right. What do I mean?" Asking, "Is it too late for me?" Are you kidding?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, time's going to go by anyway. You
That's right.
decide
It's never
what's the
too
quality
late
of
or
it.
too early to start living a proactive wellness lifestyle. Period.
Okay, so we're talking about the opposite end of the spectrum from who you're usually serving. Why kids? From your bio, obviously, you could cover the gamut from what we've talked about right now. You clearly know your way around seniors, middle agers, all of
Because
us.
kids have
Why
so much
kids?
future and so much potential ahead of them. In my wellness centers over the past 23 years, I've had so many kids, too many kids, come to my offices like zombies. They're loaded up on medications. They're dealing with all these issues, whether it's ADD, ADHD, they're dealing with obesity, early diabetes. And I look at their parents, and it's not really shocking. I look at the parents' lifestyle and what they're doing, and it's like, well, they're not really showing their kids the right thing to do. So the kids have a longer future. Not that they could get a better result, because, like we said before, anyone at any age can get the result that they need. The idea is these kids don't need to be suffering needlessly anymore. And the sooner that they're on medications for all these ailments, the longer they're going to deal with lifelong problems. So it's more of a strategic thing than anything else, that if I can get to kids through their parents, then we'll have a healthier nation 20, 30, 40 years from now.
Love it. You're going to put me out of business. There won't be anybody who
No, maybe
wants
you'll
me
switch to
flipping
flipping
50.
five.
There we go. And they're cuter. Okay, I'm sorry I said that to any of my listeners. Don't be
Yeah,
offended.
and I'll tell you what, I was actually a board member for the San Diego Senior Olympics for a couple of years here in San Diego, which I loved working with them because, that's an audience I got to get you in touch with, because,
Yes.
they're great. They're so vibrant. And a lot of the people that are involved in the Senior Olympics, they stand out amongst, from like all the other people in their age group. So, and a lot of them started doing some of these sports in their 50s and 60s. So like you said before, it's just
Yes.
a choice of when you decide to do it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just a small side note. So it was a couple years ago, I believe the year before the pandemic, I actually went to St. George, Utah. They call their senior
Mm.
games the World Games. And it's actually not the true world games, but they call it that. And I just went and said, "Hey, can I come and pretend I'm media? I just want to walk around from venue to venue and interview people who are participating." And it was so much fun. And it's like you said, that is where you want to go to get motivated about what you're doing next in the next 5 years and 10 years and 20, if you're 60, 70, or 80. It was amazing. And so many of those people did, just like you said, they hadn't even started until after 50. And in some cases, that means they're going to be a runner well into their senior years because they have
Yeah,
still fairly
absolutely.
fresh
And
brains.
I just had this idea that I would love to take some high school kids and take them to one of the San Diego Senior Game Associations, like the Senior Olympics competition, let them see it. And then on the same day, take them to a nursing home.
Yeah. Ah,
Yeah,
whoa.
right.
Documentary.
Literally just
Oh
had that
my
idea.
gosh.
There's my
Yes.
mic drop for
Okay.
the day. That was the idea I just came up with now. Thanks, Deb.
That is. We're going to have you back on next
Awesome.
year and we're going to be talking about that. Okay. So I want to dive in a little bit to, from your bio, the details on the nervous system, right? So we mentioned that more than once. What's the nervous system's role when it comes to general health and well-being? This is definitely something that, we talk bone, we talk muscle, we talk attitude, mindset, but
Right. Which is
nervous
crazy
system,
because
not
when a
so
lot of people think
much.
about the nervous system, they just think about the brain and they think, well, if it doesn't work, it's lights out. But every single human experience that a person engages in is processed through the nervous system. So every joke a person laughs at, every flower they smell, every delicious food they taste, every kiss that they enjoy on their lips, every heartbeat, every muscle contraction is all processed through the nervous system. The brain communicates with the entire body through the nervous system. The brain has the spinal cord comes down and the nerves that come off the spinal cord. And that brain is sending every organ, every muscle, every gland, every tissue, every cell in the body with information. So if there's any miscommunication between the brain and the body, that person will automatically function less than perfectly, which will automatically become a diseased situation. The body is no longer working with ease, whether the person has a symptom or not, because I think it's like fewer than 5% of the nerves in the body actually give information about pain. It needs to have a very special receptor on it called a nociceptor. And so that responds to noxious stimuli. So if a nerve is having like an impingement or some type of disconnect or something, then if you don't have pain, but it's affecting another sensory nerve like sight, smell, sound, temperature, vibration, or 75% or so of the nerves in the body that do motor function, controls the immune system, reproductive system, digestive system, you name it, you will not know that you have those issues. So what drives most people to a doctor or a chiropractor in particular is going to be some type of pain, but that's more than, that's less than 95% of the human experience. So the nervous system controls and coordinates everything, and all of your health is determined by the ability of your brain to communicate with your body.
So it's all about
It's
communication.
all about communication.
And darn it, right? Relationships,
everything is communication. And what causes poor communication between the brain and the body, ultimately, and this is easy actually, it's the inability to adapt to stressors in life. We all have chemical, physical, and emotional stressors on a daily basis, and we have to come up with ways, and that's the idea of DREAM, to neutralize and avoid as many of those stressors as you possibly can.
Okay, so I'm glad you dropped that. So in terms of Dream Wellness Centers and, of course, your new book, I wanted to ask, what does that stand for?
It's an acronym, representing
right?
diet, relaxation, exercise, being an adjustment, and mental wellness. And I'm happy to touch on each of those depending on how much time we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I especially would love, I love that R is second, relaxation, because we ignore that one. But I want to really dive into A.
And we'll talk
let's
about
touch
A
on all of them
towards the end. And that's usually how I do it when I explain it also. So otherwise it would have been DREMA, and that would be a weird word. So we had to go with DREAM. So D is for diet. Yeah, exactly, right?
Much
diet
catchier.
Is anything that goes into your body from the outside world to the inside world. It's everything you eat, drink, taste, touch, smell, feel, hear. All the movies you watch and all the people you spend time with is just as much part of your diet as the food you consume. So if you're reading really nasty stuff, if you're watching horror movies that are just all about kill or gratuitous sex or violence, that is not very good diet.
Slimy social media.
Absolutely. So it's, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, the old computer term. Well, if you put garbage in through your senses, you get garbage out. So not only have to be mindful of our food we consume, but who we spending time with and what are we doing during our time. R for relaxation is giving your body a chance to call time out, to reset, repair, regenerate, and rejuvenate yourself. State of refreshing tranquility, exceptionally important, to sharpen the axe. So many people ask me, how do you have so much time? Like they've never seen a busier person than me sometimes. And it's like, I have a lot of tasks on my plate. And they're like, how do you do it? And I say, I sharpen my axe constantly. So I get my massages, I do my meditation, I do my prayer, I do my exercise, I get my adjustments, I'm getting my sleep. I'm doing all the things I need to do so I could put a ton of stuff into a short period of time. E is for exercise, which I define as not only is any activity that causes physical or mental exertion. So not just the physical activities that we know of, but also like reading stimulating information to learn something, doing crossword puzzles, keeping the mind sharp is all part of exercise as well. We'll skip A for a second because I'll come back to that. M is for mental wellness. That's connecting your inner purpose and passion to your outer goals and tasks in all phases of life. Being right with self-esteem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, let's stop there for a minute, just for me and for our listeners. So let's distinguish definition of passion versus definition of
Okay.
purpose.
So I say that success is when your purpose and passion are in alignment with your paycheck. So the purpose and passion, the purpose I always define as what drives you. Why do you do it? Why are you alive on this planet? So my purpose is to serve God by assisting all people realize their perfection. That none of us are made imperfectly. We just don't always express our perfection. Then my passion is kind of the fuel that's needed to live and serve my purpose. And they're very similar, tied very closely together. But you can have a purpose in life and not be passionate, not strive towards doing anything. You're not living your purpose, or you're just kind of not doing it, whatever. So.
And you have experience as a personal trainer. So and we have a lot of health coaches and trainers who lurk in this audience, and I love having you here, guys. But this I often find is true among some of the personal trainers that I've mentored in my career, in that they often are very passionate, but it has not yet shown up as their purpose. Not necessarily are they doing the things that maybe nobody else will do. And I think that might fit.
I mean, the whole
there.
thing is anytime somebody makes any choice in their life, they have to look, is it in alignment with their purpose? And if it's not, then what can they do differently? Or are they just kind of going through the motions? Because, the purpose, it's such a big conversation. I always tell people that they should start their goal settings with the purpose statement, and everything needs to be in alignment with their purpose. And hopefully then they have passion from that, so they can continue. Does that kind of answer your question? That makes sense?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where it's a discussion, and I don't know that you or I solve or resolve it for any listener, but I think hopefully, listener, now you've got some fuel to really think about the distinctions for yourself.
Of course.
So thanks for
I'd like to add one other thing is that, Tony Robbins, who's been a huge influence in my life, he's always talked about how people are motivated by one of two things: to move away from pain or to move towards pleasure. And it says the majority of people are just programmed to move away from pain. But I say that there's one other sector of people that he doesn't talk about, and those are the people that move towards purpose. And when you're on purpose, sometimes it's painful and sometimes it's pleasurable. And it's that passion that you have that enables you to continue and to move through, to stay on course, so that you're not constantly in that rat race of moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure. So I just wanted to add that in there because I think that's an important distinction as well.
Definitely. And I want to point out, I mean, you really have woven, how good is that? Within that DREAM acronym, there is a lot of consciousness about the mind and thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about conscious living. That's exactly, and I use that term quite a bit throughout the book. Conscious parenting, conscious everything that you do. You've got to be awake and purposeful. So thank you for recognizing that. So back to where I was going before. So when you have the strong DREM, you should stay in adjustment, which is being in balance mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and having optimal brain-body communication through the nervous system. So when we talk about the importance of the nervous system, how it controls and coordinates everything, you better be living that dream lifestyle, because that dream lifestyle is what helps you avoid or adapt to and neutralize the chemical, physical, and emotional stresses of everyday life. So chemical stresses could be pollution that we breathe in, foods that we eat that we might have an allergy to, might be genetically modified, or have pesticides, drugs that we take pushed or prescribed, all examples of chemical stresses. Then you have physical stresses, would be exercising improperly or not exercising at all and being sedentary, a fall, an accident, poor posture while being on your mobile device and being on your computer. And then, of course, there's the emotional stressors that everyone has: finances, relationships, job. There's just a billion chemical, physical, and emotional stressors that we endure on a daily basis. So the book is just showing parents and for their kids on how to avoid and then to neutralize as many of these stressors as possible throughout living the dream. So this way they don't become clients of the sickness business, but they actually stay proactive and focus towards what I refer to as being salutogenesis, which is the creation of health.
Love it. Love it. So let's talk again, because we've all been through so many stressors, I think, in this last, year, 12 months, 14 months. And we really don't know yet quite what's ahead. I think we're much more optimistic. And we're also talking to an audience of people who's in their 50s, their 60s. I've got some 70-year-olds here too, and love them all. And by the time you reach that point, you've done hard things, gone through hard things in your life. And this dream lifestyle. I mean, we all want to be able to be more resilient when those stressors hit us, and yet we can be blindsided. What's the difference in reaction or response to stressors living the dream lifestyle
Well, so that's a great
versus not?
question. And resilience is the perfect word because you're just setting yourself up for success when you're consciously living it through the dream. So, for example, right now, I look at what I have going on in my life. There's a lot happening. And this amount of workload that I personally have would overwhelm pretty much anybody. It is an overwhelming amount of things that I'm dealing with, but it's not overwhelming me. Why is it not overwhelming me? Is because I'm constantly doing all the things that I wrote about in the book. So this way I can adapt better to it. And when I hear people, taking care of patients for the past 23 years, I hear of somebody who had a fall or a car accident or something like that. And they're like, thank God I'd been getting adjusted all this time, because who knows what my bones and muscles would have gone through when they took the brunt of that force. That's just from a physical stressor, or if they lifted something improperly, they don't end up with that herniated disc because they have more strength supporting it. So everything that we do in our life is going to either be an energy drainer or an energy gainer, right? It's either going to bring more health towards us or it's going to take away health. So the idea is to cumulatively make positive choices so you do have more resilience. And, that attitude of everything in mediocrity, everything in, what do they say? Everything in moderation does nothing but lead you to a mediocre life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Thank
horrible. It's
you.
horrible. So
I hate that. Hate it.
yeah, absolutely.
It gives us cancer.
That's exactly
Well, we
right.
have
Those are the
proof of
people,
this.
I talk about like the ones and the tens. So the ones that are living totally not purposely, they don't have any health or wellness in their life at all. Then you got the tens that are doing everything right. They're the ones that are on their bicycles at 6 a.m. They're jogging, they're drinking their wheatgrass shakes and everything else. And then you have the threes to the sevens that are in the middle, in the comfort zone, that are living the mediocrity, the mediocre life. And we say, once you lick the lollipop of mediocrity, you'll suck forever. And so what I say is, if you really want to be around for a long time and have resilience, then you got to be looking at excessive goodness and a little bit of bad stuff. And I'm talking about like 85 to 95% of really, really good stuff. And when you do the 5 to 15% of the bad stuff, it doesn't have to be that bad. A perfect example is, we did a campfire a couple of weeks ago with my 5-year-old, and of course they had s'mores. And I'm not going to deprive my kid from having s'mores, but because we spend time with people who know us, the marshmallows that they used were from Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. They were organic. They weren't made with high fructose corn syrup and very low sugar. The graham crackers were not refined sugar, and they were organic. And the chocolate was actually chocolate. So you get to indulge a little bit, but it doesn't have to be with the worst stuff on the planet. And you don't have to deprive yourself. I always tell people that discipline is when something would be deprivation for one person, but empowerment for another. So you may choose to make a different choice, but instead of feeling deprived about it, you're actually empowered. You're excited about it because you're happy about the result and it's in alignment with your purpose in life.
Love that. Another mic drop. You're full of them. I don't know. We might have to break this up because it's a lot of mic drops in one session here. All right. So I want to make sure that everybody knows where to go find this book, and then I want to ask you something. So what's the best place
Yeah,
to
go to
get the book or find out more about it?
dreamwellnessbook.com. So like dream at night, dreamwellnessbook.com.
Okay.
We've got everything there about the book and all different ways of getting it on Amazon or however else you want to get it. We could ship it to you, whatever works best for your listeners.
Fantastic. And by the way, listeners, that link I will have in the show notes. So if you're just focusing on the nuggets, go ahead. You're probably taking notes, you should be. And I'll put all of the social media connections for Brian there as well. So, Brian, I can. If you're driving, don't do this. But if we close our eyes and we imagine we've got this book in our hands, give me just what is it like? Is it I'm going to read this from front to back cover, or is it I'm going to dive into chapters
Wow,
as
I
I
can't
want
believe you
to?
asked that
Tell us
question.
a little
And we
about
did
it.
not set up ahead of time for that. That's probably the best question you could have asked. So we are. Oh, I
We
like
are a
this.
good
And
dog and
that is
pony
very
show
authentic,
then.
very genuine. We did not talk about this ahead of time. So the book came out to be a bit larger than I thought it was going to be. When I first was writing the book, I started over 10 years ago writing this book, but a year ago, it was half the size it is now. And when I originally had it for a general audience, because, whether it's a grandparent or, the parent of a 2-year-old, the information is the same about health and wellness. But when I really started to dive into some of the details, the book ended up becoming, when I say it's 450 pages. So most people are not going to read a book that thick from cover to cover, though you would get a ton of information. So the first part of the book is basically the introduction to wellness, where I talk about paradigms, philosophies, belief systems, all the reasons why you need to live this wellness lifestyle and teach it to your kids or grandkids. That's about 100 pages. Then the second part of the book is what I call wellness wikis. This is the bulk of the book where I cover dozens and dozens of topics on everything that you could think about health and wellness. You think about, should you do this? Should you not do that? It's all in the book and in the wellness wiki section. And we'll talk about that again in a second. Then the last part of the book is a short conclusion, so that's easy. The wellness wikis gets handled in a very easy way. I have this survey that I created. It's a lifestyle assessment called the Dream Score. And so the Dream Score, it's free and it comes with the book. Basically, you take this 85 question or so survey all about your lifestyle. When most people go to the doctor, they check their height, their weight, their BMI, their blood sugar levels, their all this other stuff, but they never dive into why somebody might have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or pre-diabetes or anything like that. So this is all about your lifestyle. And you get an immediate report as soon as you finish taking it. So it's going to take about 20, 25 minutes. So this is not your Facebook survey of 3 questions to find out what kind of animal you are. This is the real deal. And so you get a report, and the report will give you like a sentence or two about what you should be aware of. And it directs you where in the book you need to look. So this way, if you don't want to read the book from cover to cover, you can work on your weaknesses immediately and start improving your score. And I don't care about your score. When you improve your score, you're improving your life and your future. So I refer to the Dream Score as an indicator of your future health, well, your current health and your future health. And if you're raising children, it's also a predictor of your children's future health. So that's the best way to navigate through the book if you're not going to read it cover to cover.
That is awesome. So you start with a quiz, you go right to what gives you the best answers and the most immediate gratification. I think we all going to love that. Brian, it has been a pure pleasure. Can't wait to have you back next year to talk about your brand new documentary.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been great.
Thanks so
Have an
much.
awesome,
Best of luck.
awesome rest of the day.
And listeners, if there was a question that you think I should have asked Brian that we missed, you can leave that below the show notes. And today that'll be at flipping50.com/dream.